Molly does. She simply exchanges things with other people, sometimes gets things for free because I suppose she's a good person and people acknowledge that. It just doesn't seem to be substantially different from what you do, Shamos. And while I respect you and what you do, I don't think the criticism you're levying towards Molly is really apt.
Well, first of all, hers is greatly exaggerated.
Okay, if I can respond.
Yeah, go ahead and let Molly's been trying to respond for a while.
Oh,
Just through
okay.
Yeah.
First off, like my little man that has.
Molly's going to respond. Let me just ask one question before
No, wait, let her finish, please.
Did Pogan just direct questions towards me? Because I thought he did. It would
I thought I
probably
just
be improper to allow her to respond. But yeah, okay, I think this is a good way
Well,
to
Pogan was literally just making a statement.
I made a statement.
Did he make the statements towards me? Did he make claims about me?
No, he
and the
made
way
a
I was
statement
operating?
about.
And then is it okay? So y'all think that that's appropriate?
Well,
it wasn't necessarily about you. It was more just about the subject.
If I addressed anyone, it was the room. But let's let Molly speak. Go ahead.
First off, my little elderly man that lives down there, who has chickens here. I think there's like what?
I can't participate anymore. Then I'm sorry. I wish I could.
20 chicken. Fine, 20 chickens and whatnot. He lives there alone and whatnot. And one of the benefits of actually being up here, and for me, being a nurse, is a lot. We all know what everyone does. So yeah, I first met him because he was having heart problems, and I went down there, met him. So to us in exchange, I go down and feed chickens for him. When he gets ready to stop having chickens, we're actually going to have chickens up here. So I will not have that concern about no longer having eggs. I've actually talked to Landon about building the coop and whatnot already, if you'd ever listened to that. But like I said, there's up here, like I said, I'm 40 minutes from the closest market, and that's one way. So up here, I'm not the only one that does that up here, which is really quite silly to think that I'm the only person up here in this little commune of people. We all do this. A lot of us have heavy equipment, and we help each other with the roads, with a lot of things. So yeah, there is a lot of back and forth bottling here. Thank you. I have an overgrow of cauliflower or whatever the fuck it is. So yeah, we are able to do a lot of sustaining and helping each other somewhat off the grid. I don't know why Shamos thinks that's so bizarre, or that my being in this situation is so exaggerated, because if you knew anything about how people live in these areas, you would not think it was weird at all.
There are communes in existence within the United States that, while they may on occasion engage in capitalism in the sense they sell their goods, for the most part they sustain themselves through cooperative agriculture. Or cooperative agriculture, right? That doesn't take away from the fact that they're sustaining themselves using a mechanism that isn't capitalistic.
It's almost a work smarter, not harder type of situation too, right? Yeah. It's like a situation where Shamos is saying, well, look, I worked so hard and I'm so virtuous because, look, I get all my stuff myself. But Molly's like, look, I don't have to work as hard to get all that stuff. I just network. I talk to other people. I drop some of my own stuff, but also have all these other people I can talk to and blah, blah, blah. It just seems like, why would it be more virtuous to work harder in that situation instead of smarter?
I think he's tapping into like a masculine virtue almost, which it's almost a stereotype, Jovan. The wild man that can wrestle a bear with his own hands and doesn't need anyone to survive. That sort of
he doesn't need anyone is the big thing. Is he's going to be self-sustenance and all this, but it's so unlikely to be in the case where you're just simply by yourself.
Exactly. Of course, that's thrilling. Go ahead. Sorry.
I've taken heaps of pictures. I mean, everyone knows I have fucking turkeys all around me. Do you think it's going to, take a fucking lot to knock out a turkey and have it? I mean, it's just, you use what you have up here, and you utilize, and fucking, do you happen to have this and what? Yeah, I'd still have to go to market and go to the capitalist evil Walmart for certain things.
It's not even capitalist, though.
I know, but that's the word he likes to use, so I'm throwing it back at him. So, but no, I think it's just so weird that Shamos thinks that it has to be an exaggeration or a lie to say that you're able to pretty much sustain yourself on what you grow, what you cultivate, and what your neighbors grow and cultivate and do in exchange. And it's just weird.
It's just it's weird to conflate capitalism with any exchange whatsoever. Like, the Marxists in this community aren't calling for all exchanges to be ceased, right? In a hypothetical communist society, I hate to delve into this topic, but there's still going to be trading. People are still going to exchange goods and services. It's just not going to be done in a capitalistic way. It's just such a weird term to use for that sort of criticism.
Well, I was just saying she was doing it with fiat currency, or just currency in general. She was doing it, and so that, I mean, that's what I meant by capitalist. And I'm saying if that doesn't encompass all the elements, and I'm not even trying to say that a certain single transaction, capitalism is a system, okay? And so,
Yeah.
so I was just speaking a bit loosely, but what I was really pointing to is that it's done through currency exchange.
I thought your criticism was just that Mali engaged in exchanges, period, regardless of whether or not they involved fiat currency.
No. I'm more critical of the ones in which he's paying money for. I'm willing to grant that there's something special and different about the cases in which he's bartering short of that currency.
Well, first off, Shamos, I do not eat a great deal of meat to begin with.
Yeah.
So right. The hundreds of pounds of meat that you're so concerned about. I mean, we go hunting, so I eat very little of that. I mainly eat fish, chicken, and eggs as my protein. So for me to be able to sustain myself up here is relatively easy. I don't know why that's so hard to understand. It would be no different if I said I was a strict vegan, just living off the stuff I grow in my garden. I mean, what would be much different than that?
Well, it seemed like there was a little bit of miscommunication then, if Shamos's point was just you using fiat currency specifically rather than engaging in exchanges. But even then, like...
well, she actually went back and walked back on something she said. She claimed earlier in the conversation she pays for the eggs. And she was even claiming that she goes down and pays for the meat too. And now she's saying she gets it for free. So, I mean,
no, I did
another
not.
thing is
what I said is
hold on, I'm not done speaking. Listen, the problem is
just let him finish.
The inherent problem is this: it aids her in this discussion, whether that's true, and there's been no evidence for it. And so, allow me to remain skeptical, because it's only reasonable, right? So we've come up to a thing where I've accused her of something. She offers a reason to think that that's not the case. The reason terminates to some personal part about her life that she hasn't substantiated. Okay, and the truth of that has a lot to do with the outcome of the discussion. So you don't think it's reasonable for me to remain skeptical when she would cry bullshit? Look, I've given the proof. I've given the pictures of the fish on the deck. Ones before, not someone that some mysterious person's given to me, where we don't even know if she paid that person or not. And it's hard to say if she did or didn't. And the only thing that rides on that is her word. You know those fish on that deck I caught. Every single one of them.
We can only go by your word. You just took a pic of fish on a deck. How do we know you caught them?
Look. Okay.
No. If you want to play that.
I agree. There's not 100% certainty there, but there's something a bit distinct from showing you a fish that hasn't been cleaned, ungutted, on the dock, still breathing while I'm holding it in my hand, or showing a fucking picture of a freeze-dried package of some type of meat with some type of date on it. I'm just saying, it goes to stand the fact that you guys know.
You're a great fisherman. You can't tell that salmon?
Okay, never mind. I guess I can't speak. Sorry.
I mean, you're being silly now, right?
Show the proof. Look, you showed a couple pictures of some freeze-dried stuff. Look, the thing is, the packages that you get, here's another thing. My grandma, right, she freeze-dries a lot of the stuff that she buys from the store. And the reason why she does is because those packages you get in the store aren't great for them to hold up for a long time. Like, my grandma will buy hamburger meat on special up at Sam's Club or whatever, and she'll pack it away, take it out of the original package, and then freeze dry it because it keeps a lot longer. Those packages aren't very good that they come in. And so, like, there's reasons to think that you might want to do that if you're living up there in the mountains. So, I mean, it seems even likely that you would buy the food and freeze dry it just for the reasons I just stated. So it's like, it's even competing hypothesis that, like, you wouldn't even, that stuff doesn't even add as evidence of these alleged private benefactor transactions that just somehow mysteriously aid your argument. So I'm saying I'm very skeptical. you've given no proof, and I have no reason to believe it. But I've given very substantial proof, and you guys know a lot about my lifestyle to know that fish I really did catch. I did catch the motherfuckers. I do have a rod and reel. I do go fishing all the time. Take pictures of me on the beach with my rod and reel. So it's like, it's pretty much way more or less, you have reason to be way less skeptical about the claims that I'm putting forward. So show some more evidence, and let's see if you can avoid some of the skepticism.
What would you, okay, well, the thing that you're saying, I'm showing that to back up my argument is quite silly, because I've actually mentioned, actually I know I was in Discord when Sean brought the fish up to me, and I had said, my friend just brought me up a bunch of fresh salmon, and I had taken a pic of that and actually asked you about, you know, what to use on it, and we were not having a debate on whether or not, you know, I purchased it from store or any of that debate. So for me, what reason do you think I would have to say, oh, my friend just brought me up some fresh salmon, Shamos, what do you think the best thing to put on it? So we've had this discussion in the past regarding that. So that, for you to say that I'm merely mentioning it now to bolster my claim is not true at all. I don't know. I've also I've showed pictures where I live. People know how I live. I always laugh about doing laundry in the bucket and whatnot, and the chickens and all that stuff. So I've talked about these things over the years that I've lived up here, Shamos. So for you to say that I'm now using these to bolster a claim is really misconstruing on your part, because that's not the case at all. I did not just fucking out of the blue today in this debate, whatever you want to call it, say, oh, by the way, I get this, that, and the other. So that's not true at all.
You're going to need a lot more proof. I don't believe a fucking thing.
I really don't know what other proof. I mean, how many years have I talked
so this
about
all
my
rests on
garden
you
and have
free
taken
barter transactions from mysterious people we
pics
don't
of
know.
my garden? What are you talking about? People,
yeah, the garden of which you can only get 200 calories a day out of or something. But you can't sustain yourself on that. And look, you can't sustain yourself on eating. How many onions do you think you got to eat a day to sustain yourself? You want to guess? It's like 30.
Okay. So because I showed a pic the day that I picked the tomatoes and onions and put them in the basket, but then I don't know how many times I've had conversations where people ask me, what do you grow in your garden? I actually showed a pic that some of the corn that I'd actually picked, and I've talked about everything else that's growing in my garden, which is about, I don't know, well, before the deer.
Look, I just have one question.
40 other vegetables. Yeah, and what I was talking about purchasing, yeah, I have been purchasing from the farmer's market.
Yeah,
I did not say I
had just one question. Okay.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead, I'm waiting. No?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was unmuted. Excuse me. My one question is this. Is it true or is it not true that your entire story hinges on the fact that you have mysterious free exchange barter transactions from individuals that we don't know? Does your story on whether or not you're more self-sufficient, rely less on capitalism, does it all hinge on that, yes or no? I'm kind of curious because I think it does. Right? So what's the evidence?
Yes, a lot.
So it does hang on that. Okay, so we're in agreement. It does all hang on that.
You're not going to let me finish?
No, I was just asking a yes or no question. You're trying to finish a yes or no question?
No, I fucking shut up and let me. Yeah, the whole.
That's pretty dishonest. Why are you trying to finish a yes or no question? I was quite currently going somewhere with that.
Because I don't like this thing of mystery people, because I fucking actually know the people, so they wouldn't.
No, I'm just asking you a question. Is it true or is it not true that whether or not you're more or less reliant on capitalism all hinges on these free barter transactions with these individuals you live near in this rural community? If that's true, then I think we're in agreement, okay? Now, what's the evidence for that?
What evidence would you like?
Oh, I'm just saying, what's the evidence that you barter free with these individuals? Because it all turns on that, right? Have you supplied any evidence that you get all this for free during barter, or does it all hinge on your word? I'm curious. Oh, it all hinges on your word? That's very curious. That's very interesting.
Okay. This is what I'm going to do for you, Shamos. When I next go down,
it all falls apart under just a tiny bit of scrutiny. It all falls apart under just a tiny bit of scrutiny. That's the kind of bullshit I'm talking about.
Would you like me to video it the next time I go to get eggs? Would that help you? Or vegetables, or what would you like? Or when Sean brings me out fish again, would you? I mean, but then you're going to say, well, how do we know that you didn't pay him beforehand or afterhand? So there's no proof that I can give you that's going to satisfy you, Shamos. So I don't know how to fix this for you.
No. I'm saying I'm not asking for proof. I'm asking for just
Well,
evidence.
you are. Well, it's not evidence.
Have you given any evidence tonight other than your word? If that's true, if it's true that the only evidence tonight you've given other than your word, and we're having a discussion, okay, and I'm inclined to think that people often would just say things to win an argument or to have their points met or something like that. Do I have any rational reason to suspect that that's really the case going on if you haven't justified it other than your word? No one would do that. Pogan wouldn't take my word on any fucking thing if it hinged on that, and I wouldn't expect them to. But we're expected to do that in your case. Okay, so all I'm asking you to do is just provide some evidence. I'm not asking for proof. I'm not asking for 100% confirmation. I'm asking for some evidence to think that the proposition is more likely true than false. And you provided none. So just do something like that.
What evidence do you want?
Any evidence.
What evidence would work for you? You need to be more specific. Any evidence doesn't really pin it down for me. Give me an exact evidence that you will accept.
I don't think that's.
Give
listen,
me a specific.
I
No,
don't
give
think
me
that's
something
really up to me to
specific.
decide.
Give me something specific that
Well, look,
will work for you. That's what I need. I need you to tell me what I need to know. You tell me what I can do to give you evidence.
I'm just going to answer the same way. I don't think that's up for me to decide.
Well, see, I don't know what evidence is going to work for you unless you tell me.
No. Evidence is a neutral type of thing, right?
But I don't know what kind of evidence. You need to give me something specific because I don't want to come back and have you say, well, that's not the evidence I was looking for.
I'm saying like something like the sun's light bending around a lunar eclipse is evidence for special relativity.
Okay,
right? And that's kind of a neutral observation to all people that could
eggs. We're talking about eggs here.
No, but I'm saying that's kind of what I'm saying is it's kind of a neutral thing. It's not like what evidence do I want?
Molly?
I don't think that evidence is subjective in the way that you're talking about. I mean, I agree that there's conceptual.
See, that's why I'm confused. So that's why I need you to be more specific about the evidence you want.
Listen here. Let me see if I can.
I mean, what is evidence?
Let me give you a really simple response. Let's say that
should we look up the definition of evidence here?
And let's say that I make an empirical claim.
Let me go ahead and Google evidence.
So you're just obstructing again.
Hold on. Let me Google evidence.
I'm gonna want to have a conversation. You're just obstructing again. Just look for what you're gonna look for and just mute your mic.
Hang on here. Okay, evidence, the available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is true or valid. So going off that definition of evidence, what type are you looking for?
I just want to be able to speak for like 60 seconds uninterrupted so I can make this point.
Okay.
So you're not going to. So listen, let's say that I make some type of claim, right? And then someone says, and let's say it's a claim of an empirical nature, that the truth is not decided a priori. It's decided by looking at the world in some way. Okay? And let's say that when I go to justify that claim, I don't offer any justification for it. I then retort, what type of justification would you require? Right? And I get into a question with you about what kind of subjective justification do you think this and that. But all the while I haven't, you think you have reason to believe that that's true. You believe that there's something that justifies it. It's an empirical claim, so you need evidence. What is the evidence that you think justifies it? Let's start there. And that's the honest thing to ask. You want to know why? It's because it's your burden. You have the burden to fulfill that. You have to justify that. So we should start with what evidence you think is sufficient in your own epistemic mind to justify that claim. And that's where we're starting, because it's not, this is the type of burden shifting that you're doing. You're never going to pull it past me. Not a seasoned debater like me. Would you ever pull some bullshit like this past me?
Well, I thought I was providing the evidence that you wanted when you said take a pic of that, and that didn't seem to help you. So now I'm unsure exactly what it is that you would like me to do.
You made a claim. It's your burden.
So by you, I'm still talking. So what you need to help me to help you by telling me what it is that you would like. Would you like pics of me, or video of me actually pulling the eggs from the chicken's ass? I am not quite sure what it is that you would like. But
that's your burden.
Burden.
That's your burden. Stop asking me that question.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the definition of burden.
Look, I can explain you very simply.
A burden, a load, typically
if you make a claim,
one. The
have to
main
justify.
theme or gist of a speech, book, or argument. Shit. Heavy load. Oh, shit. English.
Let me explain to
hang
you.
Hang on. I'm confused. I need to find a better.
Talking about a burden of justification.
I need one to better understand.
Which is a dialectical look.
Okay, diet. Let me put that in the dialectical burden. Hang on. Go ahead and keep talking while I do this.
Look, you're just being obstructive again, and everyone sees through it for what it is. No one thinks this is anything other than you just being an obstructive little. So yes, I will repeat myself. You've made a claim. You think that it's true. It's an empirical claim. So you think the nature of why you think it's true is in virtue of some evidence. That's on you to provide the evidence. It's not on me to say what I think constitutes evidence. You believe this to be true, and it's an empirical claim. So you think what makes it true is some empirical evidence. So I want the evidence that you think. No. I want the evidence that you think that makes it true. Will someone explain to her? I just want the evidence that she thinks will explain it is true. She's made the claim. It's an empirical claim. So it must be proven by evidence. She thinks it's true in virtue of evidence. I just want to know what the evidence she thinks is true. She can't shift it over to me and say, what do you think evidence is? What type of evidence would you accept? I want to know what you think
makes gave you evidence and you rejected it.
We can get to that. That's part of the dialectic. But the first point is this. She thinks it's true. It's an empirical claim. She needs to offer the evidence of why she thinks it's true. And then we can go later on to dispute if I think that's actual evidence, blah, blah, blah. But it's her claim to justify right now. And she can't shift the burden to me. Not yet.
Not yet. When do you think I can shift the burden?
After you've given what you think is true, then comes the part of the dialectic where I can say I think it constitutes evidence.
But see, the only problem is that what I think is true may not be what you think is true. So then we're sort of in a stalemate there. Because
that's
again,
that's not philosophically interesting. We have different beliefs. That's not philosophically interesting. Yes, we have different beliefs. Yes, we have different beliefs, and that's not philosophically interesting.
Can I have a turn talking now?
We think different things are true. Yes, we have different beliefs. What's interesting about that?
Well,
can you reason? Do you have rationality? Are you capable of reasoning?
Well, I can't rationalize with you because you asked me to post something and I did, and then you weren't satisfied with that. So now I'm confused as what it is that you want. And unless you tell me what it is you want, Shamos, I can't give it to you, darling, regardless of what I believe evidence is. See, I may believe evidence is one thing, and you say, no, Molly, that's not the evidence I want. Shamos, I need you to help me.
This is burden shifting. This is classic burden shifting.
I'm sorry. I just don't know what you want, darling.
You think it's true, and you think it's true in virtue of the evidence. I just want to know what evidence do you think makes it true, and you're supposed to tell me that because you made the claim. That's no reasonable person would sit here, Jack.
My personal experience in going to get the eggs makes it true to me. I just answered you.
Yes.
My personal experience of getting the eggs and not paying for them is my proof. See, that's my proof. My going down and getting eggs and not having to pay for them.
I'm going to circulate the original claim repeatedly.
Or Sean coming up and dropping off salmon without me paying for it. See, that's my proof. That's my evidence. I don't know how to convey that to you unless you're going to help me. Help me, Shamos.
I already told you there's a competing hypothesis that shows that can't be evidence. I just told you if it is true that you really are living in a remote wilderness situation, even if you bought store-bought sausage or store-bought meat, there's still reason for you to package it in freeze-dried packaging, right? Because you're in a wilderness scenario and the store-bought packages are just cellophane or saran wrap, and they don't often preserve at all. So it would be reasonable to think even if you did buy all of your food, you would still freeze dry it because of your situation. So showing freeze-dried food, because of what I just offered there, that alternative hypothesis and how likely it is, given your situation, it can't be evidence to just merely show freeze-dried food. Okay? It's reasonable.
What about the eggs? What about the eggs?
So your claim is that you didn't pay any money for them. We need evidence.
You gotta freeze-dry the eggs, Mom.
No, you can't take a picture of eggs. A picture of eggs doesn't offer evidence that you didn't pay currency for them. That's what you have to justify. That's what's on the table. So why do you think this just shows your ignorance? This shows how dumb you are. You have a terrible understanding. You think a picture of eggs proves what's under contention. You're a dumbass.
how do I know you just didn't walk up to the dock and take a picture of a bunch of other people fishing?
Wait, if you're saying that you bartered for your eggs, like what does he expect you to present as evidence? A fucking receipt? Like I don't understand.
I don't know, but see, Shamos, all those pics
That's
of those
the question.
fish.
Are pistons
How
of
do
eggs
I? Okay,
evidence you didn't pay
Shamos. Well,
for?
let me ask you, Shamos. How do I know
Hmm.
you just didn't walk up to a fishing dock and take a bunch of pics of other people's catch? I mean, really, honestly.
Yeah, most
How do we
fish
know?
that are sold in North Carolina, I can provide evidence. Most fish sold in North Carolina, okay, unless you have a commercial license, are all gutted. So that means they're already gutted. It doesn't mean that they're filleted. They have to be gutted. They can't sell a fish on a not to a non-commercial person. If you're a commercial guy and you come up there and you're running a business, you can buy as many non-gutted fish as you want, and you can have them gutted at your business for cheaper than what they would cost you at the fish house. But if you're a person walking up off the street, right, just a regular commercial, a regular everyday transaction, they can't sell you a fish with its guts in. All the fish, the pictures I showed you were fish that weren't gutted. Okay, so that's evidence. That's evidence, right? You agree?
So
you agree in a state where it's illegal to sell.
Let me ask you though.
I don't have a commercial license.
But let me ask you something. When you're walking along that dock, I'm sure there's tons of people walking by. And I mean, I myself, if I saw a fantastic layout of fish or whatnot, I say, oh, fuck, I'm going to have to take a pic of that and send that to someone. This is fantastic. I mean, how do I know that you didn't do that? I mean, anyone can just walk up to people that are laying fish out on a dock and take a pic of it and say they're my catch. I mean, bloody hell. I mean, do you say, can I take a pic with your fish? I mean, I don't think that that's the most bizarre thing that would ever happen. I'm sure that, oh, fuck, yeah, that's the biggest fish I've ever. Do you mind if I take a pic with your fish? I'm sure it's happened before. How do I know you didn't do that? Where's your proof?
All you're doing is showing a counterexample, but I'm not making a logically necessary claim. So only if I was making a logically necessary claim could a single counterexample refute it. I haven't made that claim. So I don't know why you're pointing to one counterexample of as if that refutes me. That just shows your ignorance. This is fucking hilarious.
But you posted pics of fish and expected us to take that as your proof that you caught them, and that really doesn't. That's sort of like
look, because you can concoct a scenario in which I didn't catch the fish and I took a picture of somebody else's fish, right? I agree that there are scenarios, but I'm not making a logically necessary claim. Is it the case that people, when they take pictures of fish, when they have a fishing pole, that oftentimes it's the fish that they caught? If that's true, then that photo constitutes evidence, okay? But look, but when it comes to your freeze-dried meat, I've offered what's called an alternative hypothesis that, on my understanding, is just as likely. It would be silly for you to buy store-bought meat and not freeze-dry it and try to take it up there in a wilderness situation, because it would just deteriorate very rapidly. So it's almost certain that you would just freeze-dry it whether you bought it or got it for free.
Did you catch all that dolphin?
Huh? No. I caught about 6 of those dolphin. Okay, and Listen, I even took home less than 6 of those dolphin, okay, because I don't have the freezer space to store it.
How do I know you caught those? I didn't see you catch them.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see them.
The cool thing about this is that day was so radical.
Wait, no, because you've been going at me pretty hard here. So I'm looking at this one pic, and yeah, I see people standing.
That day was radical.
You people, I'm still talking.
I took GoPro. I'm just going to cut you off and just show you that your point's moot. I took GoPro. That was a radical day. That was one of the only days I've been deep sea fishing in the last 6 years. I have GoPro of me catching those fish and decking those fish, and Jimmy running up to the back of the boat and gaffing the fish. So we can get there. You think I don't got video of that shit? Okay.
Was that a charter? Was that a charter boat?
Yeah, it was a charter boat, but I didn't pay for the charter because look, he didn't have a full crew. He didn't have people the whole thing. So I went just for free, and the only thing was I just had to help with a little bit of lines, unhook a few fish, just do a little bit of something. And there was another guy that was there for free doing it as well. So basically, he didn't have to pay his mate that day, and so but we just got a free. I didn't pay for it. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah, you just.
So you have video of you catching all 6 of those fish?
I have video of me catching at least 3 of them. Certainly.
3 of them.
So, like, what's the point of this?
4.
Like, you're more.
I don't know.
You're more moral because you catch fish and eat it instead of buying food? Is that what it is?
No, it wasn't a moral claim.
What?
That's not even really true.
What's the?
Oh, it was a deceptive claim. It was merely about the nature of how often she pays with currency for her sustenance versus how much that I do.
Right, but for sure you see that as a virtue. You wouldn't deny that, right?
Yeah, I think efficiency is a virtue, but it's not always a moral virtue.
Efficiency.
Yeah, like being efficient.
No, that's
virtuous to not.
That's no. The means in which you are gathering food is perhaps one of the least efficient ways to do it.
Yeah. I'm just telling you. I think efficiency is a virtue. I was just saying that, but I don't.
What is the virtue that you're saying that you have over Molly when in regards to this?
Well, I think that the virtue that I was talking about is about self-sustainability, but the descriptive claim, which I think was more important, I was just saying it's just a fact of the matter descriptively that I pay less for my sustenance than you do year-round.
Self-sustainability? Well then,
yeah,
then the means in which that she gets it is all really irrelevant to that then. She can just get a check every month and basically win. Or be on par.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I mean, it doesn't even matter. I mean, look, if it's just about self-sustainability, then the means in which she does it doesn't really even fucking matter. You can just get a fucking check, money that poof appears in her fucking bank account. She can go down to the fucking Piggly Wiggly and buy all her shit. And she's
that's not the notion of we're not talking about the same notion of self-sustainability. Sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry. Should have been more clear, I guess.
Go ahead.
What I mean by self-sustainability is you're like the only person in the car driving down to the Piggly Wiggly and picking all the stuff up off the shelf. That wasn't the notion of self-sustainability I was getting at, and I think you're just playing dumb with me, motherfucker. So, virtue of that, I think you should.
What's the notion of self-sustainability you're talking about then? I mean, this isn't some sort of like esoteric understanding of like self-sustenance, right? Like, people oftentimes think of somebody as being self-sustaining if they like are autonomous, they're independent, right? They don't rely on other people to pay their fucking bills. They can support themselves and
I wasn't talking about that sense.
Right. So that is a well used natural sense of the word.
Yeah, I agree.
So for you to just all your bullshit about like you're just like fucking being dishonest or whatever.
Well, you just know that that's not the sense that I mean.
You're free to tell me what sense that you meant.
I meant more in a procurement of resources, hunter-gatherer-esque sense, where you're not going down like something that you could do had the markets closed next week. Something you could do, have the people that you're getting all this free stuff move away or die or get sick and can't do if they're out to fulfill these obligations, etc. I meant in that kind of sense. Excuse me, I should have been more clear.
So that's, first of all, that works both ways, right? So if all the fish in the water died, then she's more self-sustaining than you are.
If I decided to not move out of that environment, which would be ludicrous to think that would be the case.
So this is another uninteresting point in your claim. And then so it's more virtuous. You're more virtuous than Molly because the manner in which you get food.
Precisely.
Why?
Oh wait. Okay,
if you stole it, the manner in which you got food, if it was like so that you stole it, you would definitely not be virtuous.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that, right? We're not talking about...
No, but it has to do with the manner of which you procure it, right? It has a bearing on whether... Yeah, so
why is it more virtuous?
Well, I told you, I think self-sustainability is a virtuous thing.
But that's what you said. No. Look, you defined self-sustainability as the manner in which you were getting it. So I'm asking you, why is that virtuous? And then you said because it's self-sustainable.
I'm defining it in a way that coincides.
That's exactly
with the way
that's not saying anything.
Oh, okay.
If I may, Tom. Okay, I just thought of something. Well, when
I just don't
your leg,
understand it. I don't understand any of it. I don't even understand what the fuck he's trying to say. I don't know why he thinks he's better than Molly. I don't know. I don't know why he's fucking looking down his nose at people are fucking like, you know, buying a fish in the market. I just don't understand any of it.
what I find quite interesting though, Shamos, when your leg was broken, you were unable to fish, and therefore you were unable to sustain yourself. Whereas, had I had the same broken leg, I would have still been able to get my eggs, get my vegetables. Sean still would have brought me fish. So had we been both had broken legs at the same time, I would have been able to sustain myself far better than you would have. So your ability to sustain yourself hinges on a lot more than me, because I can still move around with a broken leg. Matter of fact, I mean, I can still walk, deal with a lot of shit being ill 24/7 actually. So my ability to sustain myself even with ill health or injury is far better than yours.
And no one but you thinks that's true.
No, you yourself had mentioned several times you can't because your leg is broken. You can't fish because I remember when I made the pretend rucksack out of the pillowcase, because you could not even make it down to the water's edge to fish with a broken leg. You couldn't do anything but lay there like a fucking lump waiting for someone to buy you a sandwich, whereas I was still able to sustain myself.
You're presuming all things are equal. You're presuming something like some injury you've had in the past is comparable to the one that I had.
No, I said if you
Listen,
and I
hold
had
on.
the
Let
same
me make this
injuries,
point
if
because
you
this
and
is
I,
absurd.
no, I'm still talking.
Listen,
because had I the same injuries that you had, I still would have been able to sustain myself
no.
the same exact
know
way
what you're
that I
talking
am
about.
now.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Listen to me right now. First of
we've
all,
had this same conversation
you don't know
already.
that's true. Second of all, I'm a grown man. I'm way stronger than you. I have testosterone running through my body. I'm in way better a position if I get hurt and injured to still perform a lot better than you. So to even say,
but you didn't.
No, look, that's not evidence.
You didn't perform. You didn't perform.
I'm just saying here right now. No one in this
You yourself admitted that. You yourself admitted and said several times that
I'll just tell you
were
something.
laid up with a broken
You're just
leg
being
and you couldn't do
ridiculous.
anything. No. Well, I'm just going back what you said, and of course, unless you were lying about having a broken leg.
Let me just show you how ridiculous it is. I'll show you how ridiculous it is in a very simple way.
Because you know what, Shamos, amazingly, no, real quick, let me just finish. Because you may not know this, but it doesn't take a lot of strength or testosterone to gather fucking eggs or go out to your garden. Yeah, 90-year-old women can do that. So I don't really think it matters when it comes to you saying you're stronger than me.
You're not. So everything's
Because I
unequal.
was still able to sustain myself, and you weren't.
So you were assuming that all things were equal, and now which I alleged, and now what you're doing is saying that no, you're not even talking about the same circumstances or the same thing, so you can't even make a comparison. So now you're just showing you just eradicated your own argument.
I did? How? How?
Do I need to repeat myself?
No, but you, unless you were lying, said during your injury you had to stay at your mum's, you couldn't get around there when you went to boat, you could not sustain yourself. And that was one of the things that was one of the things. Oh, I'm just saying though, you're talking about sustaining self. And apart, the whole thing about being able to sustain yourself is still being able to maintain that thing even with injury or whatnot. So one broken leg fucks you up and you die.
No, I'm confused because I thought what you were originally trying to do is say, had you broken your leg the way that I had, you still would have been able to do the task that I had to do, right? But what you're in fact saying is what I accused you of originally is you're not saying anything about my injury, and you're making no comparison amongst my injury to anything that you've done or any activity that you've done. So again, here's the simple point that goes on top of that. I'm a grown man. I'm stronger than you. Okay. I have even injured, I have an ability way up and above yours to do any type of physical activity. So here, the long and skinny is this: if any person in this room had to bet their entire life on whether in a survival situation one of us got hurt in the same type of way, who would still be able to perform more work hours or more energy of work, no one would bet on you, Molly. They would all bet on me, and they would all be rational, and it would be the smartest thing for them to do. Because I'm a grown ass man. You're fucking old. You're 50 years old. How old are you? Be honest. You're 50. You're over 50. Okay? I'm fucking 34 years old, grown ass man in great shape. Okay, I mean, comparatively to a woman in her 50s. So I said comparatively to a woman in her 50s. So here, the long and skinny is this: if you got hurt and we're in a survival situation, we'd be way better off than you. You can't make a comparison between the two. You're just talking out your dumb female ass.
It's long but skinny. That's sad.
No, see, because what I'm saying is because you kept saying I do this, I this. So I'm saying, well, doing what you do to sustain yourself and doing what I do to sustain myself, if said same injury would fall upon us, I would still be able to do what it is I do to sustain myself, whereas you would not. Do you understand that?
Look, this is all predicated on your little bullshit story you haven't substantiated earlier, that you can just hobble down to your broken leg or get your neighbor to come up and meet you.
Oh no, they would bring it. My neighbor's
that's what I said.
They wouldn't make me walk anywhere.
Again, we're recirculating back to the same thing. This you've never ever given any evidence for this, and everything hinges on this claim. So you're just bullshitting us all night long. I've actually been very gracious to you, because if Jack or like some other debater came up and you still provided no evidence, they would have just walked all over you, talked all over you, spit in your face all night. So do us all a favor and just provide evidence.
I think they would realize this conversation is retarded.
I think so. Yeah.
She's provided no evidence.
You have not provided what evidence you would like, so I can't help you. Sorry, dear. And I'm about done with this because you fucking are a retard and we're boring everyone.
Bye.
I mean, if the room doesn't care, you can carry on. I just don't want to bore the room. If they don't care, we can go all fucking night.
Yeah, I think this conversation has been exhausted of all value, if I'm frank, and I don't know that the personal insults are necessary. As a bully buster, I sort of have to put an end to it there. So
I'm just done.
Question to the audience. One quick question: Does everything she said hinge on the fact about whether or not she actually gets these free things from barter that she doesn't pay any money for from these individuals? I think so, and she's provided no evidence for that. So, I mean, ultimately, look, a photo of a fish on a dock that's not gutted, because look, the nature of my state, they can't sell to a person without it being gutted unless you have a commercial license. So any picture of a fish is evidence that it's been caught by hand, and you guys know that I fish, so the pictures that I post are going to be evidence, at least somewhat, that I've gotten that I caught the fish. So again, I've provided evidence, she provided none. This is just bullshit. We'll move on. Sorry for wasting your guys' time.
I think that's a fair summary given Shamos's take. We can move on to another conversation. Like I said, I think it's been exhausted of all value.
Good call, Pagan.
Oh my God, Jovan! Jesus Christ!
Who was that?
He's currently single-handedly winning the Second World War. So cut him some slack.
Yeah, that's what happened.
What else can we argue about?
Sorry, guys, it went on for so long. I wasn't expecting it to be drug out to this point, but I was sort of like a dog with a bone on this. Apologies, everyone.
That's okay. It was fun to listen to while I did my nails.
Your dishonest debate tactics are probably interesting for everyone to watch.
Shut up.
You're just obstructive. You talked over me. You're completely obstructive. Hogan had to moderate us because you're just brutality of being obstructive. It just shows how fucking dishonest you are. Look, that's all I got to say, but it's just sad. Fucking pathetic.
Thank you, Shamos, for engaging in conversation with me.
No, I mean, you never. We're a top tier debater, anyways. You always bullshit.
Top tier. Who are the top tier debaters, Shamos? Who are they?
God, don't do that. Don't ask him.
I'm doing it, you guys.
Yeah, there's a general consensus, is what I'm saying. General overall, there's a general consensus.
I'm curious though, real quick, Shamos. I've been debating and trying to learn philosophy for a while. Where do you think I'm at from your conversations you've heard me engage in and the conversations you've had with me?
Well, I've been impressed with you, especially in the fact that I know for a fact the duration, how short it's been. So I'm actually probably more impressed. That dude just ran a red light. I'm probably more impressed with you than probably most anyone else. So I would say I'd rank you quite high on the list.
Oh, thanks. That's pretty cool.
It's not much of a list.
It's funny, Pogan put himself on the top of a list.
It's not. It's not in descending order.
Oh, I see.
All right, here's questions. Pogan, who is your most challenging debate opponent? Being completely honest in this, and I mean challenging in the sense that they don't be dickheads and that you actually struggle. Like, you know what I mean? Not trolling difficult.
Probably Josh.
Yeah, that's fair.
Same for you, Yuri?
No, not for me. The hardest, and I'm going to be honest with you, the hardest debate opponent and the quite funniest one I've ever had to deal with was Vade. Vade is by far the hardest debater I think I've ever came across. I'm not joking. I'm not joking.
Justin is a really good debater. You should have heard Justin in his prime. Justin was so good that a lot of times he didn't really know that much about it, but he could just, and it sounded so good that no one would ever question it. I'm not even saying it was bullshit. He could have just been like saying the right thing, and it really was right. Justin is a gnarly debater. I think Justin is probably
me and Justin never.
top. He's a beast.
Who is Justin and where is he now?
Justin is a little New York City like pretty boy that like has like this like high end lifestyle that like he really can't sustain, and he like makes like over 100K a year, but has for like the last 10 years and doesn't have anything to show for it. He's banging all these like weeaboo chicks. He's been like all these like Asian and half Asian chicks. He's like
that's awesome, man. I need to talk to Justin.
He's literally about to marry this Asian chick. I have a picture of on my phone of Justin getting a blowjob from this Asian chick.
Oh
dude, she looks like an alien, dude. That girl's eyes are so crooked she could see around a corner.
Oh my god. That's not cool, dude.
Shamos, check your DMs real quick, man.
Like if I was playing poker near these girls, I couldn't check my hole cards. They could just see anything, dude. They could see around a corner, man. You couldn't do anything in front of these people. These people are like, it's ridiculous. Their field of vision is like, your field of vision is like half the size of their field of vision. Their field of vision is twice yours, dude.
Oh my god. Racist.
Yuri, do you think you could beat Manny in a debate?
In certain topics, yes.
Manny
Manny admits it too. Yeah, certain concepts in philosophy, yeah. Manny agrees. He thinks he's actually the one who brought it to me. I could beat him in like certain philosophical debates.
Well, let me rephrase the question. Do you think you're overall a better debater than Manny?
Oh no, not at all. No. Manny's godlike. Josh.
I think Manny's a really good debater. I think it's probably the fact of the matter that I probably know more about philosophy than Manny, but I still think he's probably a better debater than me, given what I've heard. And I haven't heard much, but given what I heard, I think he probably is.
Yeah, he's a really good debater, by far.
Damn.
Josh and Jack. Jack kind of thinks of Manny as like a little Josh almost. Because I guess for the most part, now that I think about it, Josh is like for the most part Manny's mentor on a lot of things.
Josh is really smart and he's quick and he can think abstractly in ways that like kind of like bridge certain domains that help him out in certain areas. But I don't think he's like as polished of a debater as Manny. I think Manny has a better like presentation. But like Josh is kind of like me. My presentation is not very good either. Like in terms of presentation, it's far worse than Josh's. But I still think that Josh is a good debater and that he's really smart.
So you never answered the question of who's your most challenging opponent.
Oh, mine? I mean, historically, it's been Joe Sansi, but it's because we had kind of a rivalry. But if what you're asking me is something like not historically, like who do you think is like your toughest opponent? I mean, Jack Ainstrike hasn't really had any serious discussions with me in like almost a year and a half, 2 years. It's been a long time, so I wouldn't even be able to put Jack up there. I would say Yaniv is probably, for me, the hardest person for me to deal with.
Why is that?
He's Jewish and he's super smart, and he's
What
like.
does being Jewish have to do with?
I didn't even know Yaniv was Jewish.
Yeah, and he's super smart, and he's
Yeah,
like.
he's smart. I just didn't know he was
He
Jewish.
has a way of like. The way he kind of like reasons is like really Socratically, so it happens it kind of manifests in terms of like this dialogue, this kind of questioning dialogue, and the way that he does it is actually kind of succinctly, like he's actually, like he's like a modern day Socrates kind of. I mean, it's kind of funny.
I'm surprised you haven't mentioned Vic at all, Shamos.
Well, I think Vic, I'm more impressed with Vic in terms of what he knows and the way that he can apply it and how much he can, like his ability to recall. And he seems to not forget very much. And so I think Vic is super high up there when it comes to knowledge. I don't think he's like a super great debater, but I think I think he could easily dispatch, 99% of the people that have ever came around here, ever. So he's on the very top.
Yeah, Vade is I'm surprised you said Vade because Vade I don't think he's bad, but
he's not a good reasoner. Oh, just to be clear, he's dumb. He's a dumbass. He's not a good reasoner.
I don't agree with that.
When it comes to rhetoric and stuff like that, and debating, yeah, he's
no. Vade's strength is terminology.
Yeah,
that's all his strength is. That's it.
Exactly. And he uses that as a debate tactic. And I would say that I admittedly for myself, he's one of the hardest people to combat on that, especially for me. I get pounded almost all the time.
You guys want to hear Vade dressing down Dio about the Shamos situation? Here we go.
Vade is extremely easy to deal with.
Well, he's gotten better, but like I've gotten better at like dealing with him. Like I trashed him the other day, but I'm just saying that in the past, I've gotten humiliated by. Especially
I don't think he's gonna get fucking stable coming into the server and everybody playing into his fucking drama and delusions and shit like that. That's not going to fucking help Shamos.
And Helen, I sent you a DM where I told Shamos I think he needs to get some sleep, but though he wasn't acting incoherently, and I sent you that screenshot. So you see, like I predicted this based on that message that I sent you.
I would say he was acting incoherently.
You guys are so bad about this, and I was implying that Tom would try to use this. In that DM, I said, let me state right here, right now, that I think you should go to sleep because I know this is going to be used against me as I have some like alternative, an agenda, right? That I'm going to be using Shamos for my own personal gains.
Vade, at this point, by the way, Shamos calculated he'd been up for 54 hours, and that was at the beginning of the discussion.
Yeah.
And he planned to do more.
Yeah. And Vade, you heard what the discussion was about. Dio saying he was going to leave the server until Shamos was unbanned. And that's Shamos was arguing that he didn't really mean that.
So
and you should hear the argument that Shamos was giving, which was ridiculous.
No,
given an analogy, and then when given a direct analogy to show how ridiculous it was, he said it wasn't analogous. It was insane.
Yeah, but you guys are lying by saying that you care because when Agnes was getting drunk and getting naked on fucking cam, like no one cared.
Yeah, everybody hated Agnes at the time.
Yeah, what do you mean nobody cared?
You sat there and allowed her to do that, dude.
We hated Agnes.
Oh, okay. So for one, this isn't a fucking babysitter, right? Like people can fuck up and people can get entertainment value out of it. Okay.
I agree with you, but that's not what's being argued, right? What's being argued is like don't sit there and say the reason was because you cared because it wasn't. Maybe some people express.
Okay, man.
Look, why do you think nobody cared? I cared.
You guys.
The example you just gave.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, if I were there, I probably would have suggested he be banned too. Permanently, actually.
He wasn't banned. No, we're talking about the kicking incident. The banning thing is something different.
No. I'm saying at that point that he was kicked or whatever it was happening where he was getting real fucking manic.
A couple nights ago. Yes.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to fucking ban him permanently, and the people who care about him most to contact him through DMs and get him fucking stabilized. That would have been my suggestion. So this whole fucking roundabout of whether or not it was justified DO is fucking asinine. The guy is fucking heading to killing himself, dude.
Dio is
This
like
fucking
blind.
retarded.
He's blinded by like, oh, but Tom's mean to me.
No, I can show you. I can show you the message I sent to Shamos last night.
I had no idea it was this bad. Like, if I knew it was this bad, I wouldn't have fucking tried to criticize Tom about any of his moderation. Like,
you actually signed up with the Adderall Alliance, Fade.
Do you think Shamos is okay
Well,
with
it's
you
not.
sharing
It's
that
not. I didn't hold
DM?
it against you, Vade. You didn't
I'm not
know,
sharing what he
right?
said. This is what I posted to him last night. I said, true. I said, we're talking about gaslighting. I said, but it's not good for you.
This is not gaslighting, dude.
And I put, but point being made, you weren't making sense. It wasn't as if you were incoherent.
Actually, could you tell us how Shamos was making sense, Dio?
No, you're just trolling right now.
Right. I'd be happy to tell you how ridiculous.
Listen, Dio. Here's a little fucking clue for you, dude. It doesn't even fucking matter if he was coherent or not. The guy has been abusing a fucking stimulant for some extreme amount of fucking time. He's already admitted that he's had mental fucking breakdowns. His family has disowned him. Do you really fucking think it matters if he was putting up a cogent fucking argument, you idiot?
No, last night he said, leave me alone in response to don't sit there and bitch about his bad. I don't know if you were here for this, but he was saying, like, don't sit there and, like, interrupt me and say my connection's bad, and then follow that up with more communication with him.
I don't fucking care about any of this. Look, Shamos was a kind of an interesting guy, dude. Shamos was an interesting guy. I like Shamos's fucking argumentation. He knows a lot about philosophy. That's as far as my relationship with Shamos goes. I have a respect for him on an intellectual level to some degree. Now, if you want to talk about Shamos personally and the fucking condition that he's in right now, look, I have a general humanistic appreciation for people's condition. I don't like them to suffer unnecessarily unless they've done something fucking horrible. And I don't think Shamos has done anything fucking horrible, okay? So either this community, who has known him for apparently 5 years now, is going to fucking pull together and actually figure out what you're going to do about this fucking guy, or this fucking bullshit drama is just going to continue on indefinitely, and I have no fucking interest in that. And I'm going to leave now, and I think you all should fucking just sit and think about what you're going to fucking do about this guy who's been awake for 54 fucking hours. And maybe Dio should be fucking
since then now.
Dio, the shit that you've said in the past fucking 15 minutes has been so fucking asinine. I can't even believe it came out of your fucking mouth, dude.
Why don't you just stop running around and address what I said?
Dio, do you actually care about Shamos? Dio, do you actually care about Shamos right now?
Why don't you just stop interrupting me and address what I said?
Do you actually care about Shamos' state right now? Like, in this minute, do you care about Shamos right now, this minute? Do you care what he's doing right now? Because you're here arguing. He left. He's apparently fucking manic. Do you know what he's doing? Right this fucking second. Do you care what Shamos is fucking doing right now? Not in this chat room.
Well, it's not Adderall because he had to.
And it's really none of your business, all right? And I don't need to justify myself.
Oh yeah, none of my fucking business.
Okay, so second of all, no, and I don't think that you genuinely care about people, but second of all, address.
You know what, dude? Fuck you.
You're not even here.
If you even fucking knew the things that I've said to Ace about you, about wanting to help you, you can fuck off and die. Fuck the shit out of you, man.
Why don't you just address what I said last night?
You are one of the most narcissistic, fucked up people that I've ever fucking met in one of these chat rooms. And what you just said to me about not caring about people, you can fucking shove your fucked ass, meaningless life up your fucking asshole.
Address what I just said last night. His internet connection was bad, right? He was getting really antagonized because people would interrupt him because of his connection, and then he would say, "Stop asking me questions if my internet is bad because then I can't respond." It's extremely annoying, right? I'm still talking. This is consistent. This is consistent. I'm not going to let you go. This is consistent.
I fucking hope you get permanently banned and you go get some fucking help.
Okay, we got it. Okay, so but this is consistent to my DMs to Helen, all right? It wasn't because he was incoherent or he was fucking so crazy on drugs that he couldn't.
I don't care what you're saying right now. You're talking to
I don't care what you're saying right now, so somebody's going to have to concede.
What are you saying is consistent?
Okay, so I'm going to leave in about 5 minutes, but again, it was
what's consistent?
his connection was bad. He was being antagonized because you guys kept interrupting him. And then he said, stop asking me questions if my connection's bad. That's what was antagonizing him. It wasn't because he was so fucking high that he was getting ready to commit suicide and I was, making him do it or something like that. You just are trying to scapegoat me right now and put the blame on me. That's exactly what's happening. It's exactly what I predicted. It's implicitly in the emails that I sent to Helen last night. You guys are so shameful. Like, you don't even take responsibility for your own fucking actions. I'm out.
Okay, see ya.
Huh.
He's not
Yeah,
calling you.
fuck Dio.
What are these? What are
Fuck
these?
Dio. I have had so many conversations with Ace about how we could help Dio. How I've said so many fucking times to Ace how terrible I think it is that he's so dependent on, just sits here and just puts up with the abuse he receives, and then he snickers at me that he doesn't think I care about anybody. Well, he can go fuck himself. And if he actually cared about Shamos, he wouldn't be doing any of this shit. As soon as Shamos left, he would have left too, and went and talked to Shamos and said, "Hey, dude, you all right? You know what's going on? Whatever." But no, he stayed here to fucking drama farm about who's banned and fucking whatever and Tom and all this fucking shit.
I love these recordings. It's because it's like this shit is like a classic theme amongst like this Discord. It's always like feigning interest of my mental health, and like there's literally nothing wrong. I'm like more sane than like 90% of the people here, but they always pretend I'm like fucked.
Well, I don't know about that.
I don't know about that one.
They're like, he's imminently gonna commit suicide. He's doing it. He's fucking manic. He's probably already done. Like, you should hear how they talk, man. It's fucking hilarious. I love you guys, man.
I like how Vade thinks it's like really incredibly inconceivable. He's like appalled that someone would think that he doesn't care, but he took that morality test and literally scored a 0 on the care part.
Does anybody have that?
I don't actually think that Vade doesn't care. I just think that that's an identity that he has about it.
Found it. Maybe not.
Yeah, I remember Dio and Shamos were allied just because of some, like, the alliance was so superficial and just completely hinged on being enemies of Tom or something. It was so retarded.
Was it ever adversarial between them?
Between Shamos and Dio? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shamos really went off on Dio.
Oh yeah? What for?
Dio was saying that he was perfectly content. Thought it was a bunch of bullshit. And just went off on Dio. Which it was notable because they both have kind of an unspoken alliance. So for Shamos to do that to Dio, he must have really, really pissed Shamos off.
Okay.
Leave me alone.
Who said that?
Shamos.
Oh.
Shamos did.
I pictured him I pictured
Yeah.
him as that one dude underneath the covers screaming, "Leave me alone," or "Leave her alone."
Yeah.
He was screaming, "Leave Britney alone." So you don't even know the pop culture reference. God damn it.
Yes, Brittany.
No, she says, "Leave her alone."
Yeah, but
Well-
it was the. She said, "Leave Britney alone."
So she
leave her alone."
does. Oh.
Yeah. Blah blah blah.
She
Shut
said
the fuck up.
she says both actually. If you want to get real
Yeah,
technical.
she does exactly.